Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home. I'm Tangcay from Variety, where I'm the artisans editor. The SAG-AFTRA Foundation has a COVID-19 relief fund to support SAG-AFTRA artists with basic needs like rent, food, and healthcare costs during this global pandemic and industry shutdown. Donations are 100% tax deductible and directly support performers in dire need. Information on how you can support this effort can be found in the description of this video. It's my pleasure to introduce Jovan Adepo.
Thank you so much, and hello back to you. It's such a pleasure to be here and be doing this.
Oh my gosh, congratulations on that Emmy nomination. I have to ask you, what were you doing when you heard the news?
It's such a random thing. So I have a puppy that I just got back in May from a family friend, and I've been taking care of him. He's only 4 months old, so I have this routine of things that I do every morning. Like I have to wake up and feed him, take him for his walk, and then we usually go back to sleep because it's really early when he gets up. So we go back to sleep for a couple hours. So I was on my couch, and I believe it was a Tuesday, and I was asleep on my couch, and he was napping next to me, and I got a text message from one of our costume designers on WATCHMEN, and she had texted me and was like, "Congratulations! I'm so happy and proud of you." And I thought that she was saying congratulations as a cast, because it's kind of like a common etiquette to just say congratulations if the show gets nominated, because it's a team effort. And so I was like, yeah, congratulations to you too. This is such a great thing for us. And she was like, no, sweetheart, I'm talking about you. And I was still half asleep. So I was like, wait, what are you talking about? And she was like, I think you should go online, and you should check the news. And I looked, and everything felt like my heart started beating really fast, and I had to go online and look for my name. And when I saw it, I thought it was one of those lists that are dream lists of who we wish would get nominated. So I was like, this isn't real. But then Damon called me, and I knew it was real, and I just started hyperventilating, and the normal stuff that you can imagine, just being overwhelmed with emotion. And it was just one of the best days of my life, and something that I'll never forget for sure.
Oh, amazing. What an amazing story. But, looking back now, was there a moment, a TV show or a movie that inspired you, that said, you know what, this is what I want to do? Because you actually end up doing the bachelor's degree in philosophy and political science,
That's
right?
correct.
So
That's correct.
How did this journey begin for you?
Yeah, it definitely came I feel as organic as it possibly could, because I had no interest in being an actor earlier on in life. I think I've always been surrounded by film. My dad is a self-proclaimed cinephile, but he has a massive collection of movies, and I was always watching those with him when I was younger. And my mom is definitely a fan of the theater, so I've always kind of been around the creative arts. But as you mentioned, I wanted to have a career in politics, and I want to say it had to have been when I was getting ready to graduate college, and I was transitioning into creative writing, and I kind of got that idea that I think I want to write scripts, because I think I'd like to tell my own stories and things like that. And by that point, I had already been a published writer for short stories and poetry, so this was a natural transition for me. And when I moved out here to California, my aunt Noelle had a talent agency, and it was a boutique agency, but she felt, hey, if you want to write while you're here, you should at least try to do commercials or do different workshops and things like that, because if you can book a national, you'll get a lump sum of money, and you can afford to stay at home and write all day. And I was like, that's perfect. So I started doing these different workshops, and every time I did a workshop or an intensive or something like that, I was always being told, hey, this is something that you should kind of nurture and stick with if you're interested. And just having that background of always being a fan of movies, and I can name a few, I was always a fan of Gladiator was something that was really powerful for me, especially Joaquin Phoenix's performance, because that was the first time I remember enjoying the villain's performance more than the hero. Obviously, almost every Denzel movie that he's ever been in, I've been a fan of. And my dad used to have on repeat Mo Better Blues and Malcolm X, of course, and Devil in a Blue Dress, to name a few of many. And just the actors like Philip Seymour Hoffman, Daniel Day-Lewis, those kind of guys I was always seeing when I was little. So that was not to think that I was going to move out here and it's like, I'm going to be like those guys. It was just like these actors were able to put themselves in worlds and different stories and different personalities in a way that always left me with a lasting feeling. And that was something that I was like, I want to know how, not necessarily how to do that, you know, to equate myself to them, but what's the journey that I can go on to hopefully be able to try to do something and leave an impression on audiences like they have. And that was when I decided to kind of take acting more serious and get into class and study, you know, on a more consistent basis.
Yeah. And, you know, you talk about Denzel and Mo Better Blues and, you know, you got to act alongside him in Fences. I mean, talk about getting that role and what it was like to be acting opposite him and Viola. I mean, that film just gives me goosebumps talking to you about it.
No, it was a brilliant experience. And it's one that I never get tired of talking about because it was one of those moments that, you know, I had been acting for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years at that point. And we both know, and any actor in this business can tell you, there are some people who are, you know, striving to have a certain type of career and they're at it for 15 years or 7 years or whatever. And I was fortunate to just kind of be in that circulation of talent that was, you know, auditioning for this part. And this is a part that everybody in the industry wanted at that time. It's to play opposite these giants and they were bringing it straight from Broadway. So it was like, if I was fortunate enough to kind of finesse my way in there, I will. But I knew that the only way that was going to happen was for me to be incredibly prepared and to know the material, August Williams' brilliant material, and to just understand the character and understand the circumstances between these characters in the story. And plenty of auditioning, self-tapes, and going into to Vicki Thomas's office a bunch of times. And when I got the call that I was going to get to audition with Denzel, I was in disbelief, and I feel like I had like a number of anxiety attacks when it was time, because I remember it like it was yesterday. It was like raining outside and I was at the Paramount lot and I was standing right outside of the casting office and I was just waiting to go in. And I know that it was like brought down to a few of us at that point, like the final Corys. And I remember hearing his voice for the first time. And this was the first time I'm hearing real life Denzel other than in film. Like I heard it on the other side of the wall. And I was like, I can't do this. This is just too much for me. So I like walked outside and it's raining. I'm standing outside, like just under the, like the little, I don't know, roofing to the casting office. And Vicki comes outside and she sees me and I have like my hood on and my headphones on. And she's like, Jovan, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm just getting some air. And she was like, all right, well, we're waiting for you. And I walked in and I saw Denzel. He was like waiting in the door and he's like, Jovan Adepo. He's like, come on in, son. And I was just like, oh, this is the greatest moment of my life. Let me just embrace that. And let me just do my absolute best and then, you know, be done with it. And it was one of the most difficult auditions that I've ever done, but the most rewarding because I was getting to work with somebody that I adore and admire so much. And, you know, he put me through the ringer and I understood why he was doing it afterwards. And it was just icing on the cake to be able to get the role and to get to do the job, because as an actor, that's always the plus, you know, your job. I'm trying to remember who said that. I think it was like Bryan Cranston said that, like auditioning and creating characters for that moment is your job. I think Wendell Pierce said something similar to that as well. And he was like, the icing is just getting the part and getting to do it in front of a camera.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience, and getting to work with him and Viola, who is a family friend of mine. Like I had a relationship with her before, and it was just getting an opportunity to spend every day, 16 to 18 hours a day with the masters of acting, and just getting to sit back and just write everything down, you know, metaphorically, just write everything down and just learn and soak in it as much as I could. Like people would pay thousands of dollars for that. You know what I mean? So it was just an opportunity for me to get to do that and do it at such an intimate level. It's like, that's the greatest thing. So yeah, I was really fortunate to get that job.
That must have been a great experience, especially like as an actor, to spend like you said, 16 hours a day with the greatest in the field,
every day,
acting with them and taking notes and, you know, using that in your, you know, in your own career. You know, you talked about your process a little bit, like how you prep for Fences. But like, what actually draws you to a role? I mean, you've been in The Leftovers, Overlord, when they see us. Your resume is incredible when you look at
Thank
it.
you.
But what for you like would draw you to a role?
Well, there's a combination of things. One, this again stemming on our conversation about Fences, is that Viola was, and Denzel as well, and even the rest of my cast, Stephen Henderson, Russell Hornsby, Uncle T, Michael T. Williams, like it's one of those things where you just follow the strong narratives and you follow the stories that have complex characters, and that's something that I took to heart when all of them stressed that to me during our filming of Fences. But even before that, I just remember being a child and watching films with my dad and remembering what that feeling was like when I saw certain scenes from certain actors. And again, if I can bring back Gladiator, like the scene, when Joaquin's character first finds out that he's not going to be the successor to his father, and that they're going, and that Marcus is going to bring in Russell Crowe's character as the next emperor or leader of Rome, and just the wave and the arc that Joaquin takes you through in 3 minutes. You just remember that feeling that you get and the goosebumps, and I was just like, that is what I want to like feel when I read a character's lines and the moments for a character in a script, and that's the kind of, I guess, the level of character and complexity in a character that I always want to be looking for. And I feel like that's something I'm always going to be looking for, even as I grow and as I get older in the industry. It's something that when you see it, you just know it right away in most cases.
Talking about complexity of characters, let's just jump to Watchmen. I mean, what did Damon, you've worked with him before on The Leftovers and Regina, so, you've got a reunion there, but what did he tell you about your character, or how much did you know going into Watchmen?
I wasn't too familiar about Hooded Justice. I vaguely remembered the physical characteristics of that character from the film, but it goes by so fast in the film that if I can assume, most people did not remember Hooded Justice unless they were already fans of the source material beforehand. So when Damon first called me about it, and it was just a matter of he called me, felt like on a Thursday like this, and I was leaving the gym, and he was just like, "Hey," it wasn't abnormal for him to check in because I keep in touch with a lot of the cast and crew from Leftovers anyway. It's just a great group of people, so it's always a text here and there and whatever. And he reached out to me and told me about this character, and he kind of set up the initial world of what they were trying to do with the first half of the series and what they've been filming thus far. And kind of, it was weird because it was like he was telling two stories at the same time, but I still understood what he was saying. He was talking about like the evolution and like the beginnings of Superman, and how he started off as like a child whose homeland was being destroyed, and how his father sent him away to another land hoping for a better life for him. And then he kind of brought that into the Tulsa massacres and Will Reeves' beginning as a young boy, and how he ends up becoming a police officer in New York, and basically becomes the first masked vigilante or crime fighter in this world, in this universe. And I remember before he even finished getting through all of that, trying to catch me up to the story, just knowing, yes, this is something that I want to do. Because I have a massive amount of trust for Damon as a creative mind and as a writer. And one, just because I know that he always has the actor's interests at heart and as a priority. If there's ever something that's in the lines or whatever that just doesn't feel honest, he's just going to ask you, what is it that you think is going to be the best for this character? Give us some feedback. So because of that experience I've had with him on The Leftovers, I was just ready for it. I was like, Regina is on board. There's a great supporting cast involved. Like, yes, when do I sign up? And then, we were off to the races at that point.
Yeah. How did you prepare for the role and and getting into the character? Because, I mean, just talk about that, because that's a lot of, layers that you have to go into, and we won't go into episode 6, but we'll touch on it in case people haven't seen it. But.
Sure. Well, I think it really started as soon as I got off the phone with Damon. because once he, you know, they sent me some minor materials just for my own private study. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to understand the evolution of police officers and minority police officers, and kind of tried to create my own kind of backstory of Will when he's leaving Tulsa and where he ends up when we first see him in the beginning of episode 6. And I have a couple of friends, childhood friends, who are in law enforcement and also men of color. And so I was immediately like, awesome, this is a perfect opportunity to like hit my friends up and like talk to them about their experiences and try to use that to kind of guide my research into the history of police officers. And we had this conversation before about how originally policemen in the United States, they weren't even really policemen. They were for hire or for profit. It was like a for-profit sector for well-off people who lived in different towns to protect their goods and to protect them if they wanted to participate in gambling or prostitution or things like that. And a lot of the time, the people who were hired for these jobs, and what it was called was night watch. And a lot of these people who were hired for these night watches were either volunteers or people who were kind of forced to do it because it was like a form of punishment. So a lot of the time you were looking at having officers coming from backgrounds of crime or just less favorable characters in society. So a lot of the time these members of enforcement were like unlikable people. And even back then, before they became police officers, they didn't even want to wear badges or name tags because they didn't want to be associated with the bad things that they were doing when they were supposed to be watching the neighborhoods. A lot of the time they were just getting drunk or sleeping or committing more crimes. So it's kind of weird, kind of learning that information about them and these night watch people who were called watchmen, how they kind of came to be and how it eventually ended up kind of evolving into like this structured system used to fight crime and such. And going from that and then trying to understand how committed Will Reeves was to kind of becoming that, you get the sense that Will just wanted to do whatever he could to be on a powerful force for good. You know what I mean? And it shows that when he's a child, how he kind of has this fantasy of what justice means through Bass Reeves, the first black marshal of Oklahoma. And since that and going into adulthood, he was just like, this is what I want to be. This is what justice means. You fight for what's good. There's no gray area. There's right and there's wrong. And I'm always going to make sure I'm on the right side of that line. And then he joins the police force and finds out that there is a gray area and that some things do get ignored and most people turn the other cheek to it. And I think that was a shocking experience for him. So I wanted to go into the entire process of playing Will as kind of like this guppy with his eyes wide open, just always like everything is a new experience from his childhood to up until this point. I wanted to feel, and I had a lot of conversations with Danielle Deadweiler, who played my wife, and she was brilliant. Had a lot of conversations with her about how we protected ourselves as children up until the point when we end up in New York. So there's a lot of kind of tension that I tried to keep with myself whenever I was talking to other people, especially people of Caucasian race. I just wanted to always have like this tension and tight demeanor to me. Now, whether that ever showed up on film, I don't know, but that was something that I was always working on because when the camera comes on, you could just, whoops, it's out the door. But there's this level of tension and just not being aware of the complexities of justice that are at play, just not being aware of it and trying my best to understand at all times. That was something that I always wanted to be playing when I was playing Will Reeves.
Yeah.
Trying my best.
And your performance is incredible. And yes, you do feel that it did come through watching that. You talking about the tension, you feel that. I can't imagine what it was like shooting that episode. Like, talk about how it's very intense. We're not going to spoil it. It's very intense to watch. I cannot imagine what it was like for you as an actor. At the end of the day, when, they yell cut, how do you go away from that or try to without it seeping into your personal life? If you can, because of what it means, especially in this day, given where we are with the George Floyd Black Lives Matter
Absolutely
movement?
Well, I think it's difficult to completely just purge yourself of the material, because even before you step in front of the camera, if you're doing your due diligence, you're spending a lot of time with the material anyway. And if you really want to do your best to present a complete character, you're going to be jumping into the depths of the uncomfortability of the subject matter anyway. So I think once it's on camera, and again, you're doing this for hours and hours on end, and you're going back and forth, and you're putting you're all into these scenes, it's kind of hard to just say cut and you change your clothes and it's done. For me anyway. And for the most part, some of my peers who I've always respected their work, I think it's kind of hard to just let it all go. So I think the best thing that I've been able to do is just not try to do that. I don't know. That sounds like kind of basic, but it's just like not try to rid myself of the content, because like you said, it is absolutely relevant to what's going on right now. There's a strong duality to it that's kind of scary if you're seeing what's going on outside your front window right now, and then you watch that episode, it's just like, it's kind of disheartening, because how much has really changed in the last 60, 70, 80 years, whatever. And you see it's not that much. So it's not going to be this sweet story. There's nothing really about that episode that was easy to do, emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever. But I think all of the actors and the director, Stephen, started in that first day understanding that this is going to be difficult material. But if we all trust each other, and if we all know that this is mission-based art that we're doing, I think we're all going to get through it. And I think that day one that camera was up, everybody believed that. Stephen was very good at making sure we all understood what we were doing and why we were doing it, why we were telling the story this way, as opposed to another way that another filmmaker would have done it. And what I really appreciated was that Stephen was like, it's going to be uncomfortable. He said the first day I got to Atlanta, I was in his office and he was showing me still shots of like, the concept art and all that. And he was like, it's going to be rough. Every single scene is going to be rough for you. But if you understand why we need to tell this story, it's going to be something that's worthwhile. And if you see it now, after that episode aired, you just see droves of people online, social media, whatever, that didn't even know the Tulsa Massacre was real. And that's not to judge them in any way, but it's like, this is important work. So it makes the tough takes and the uncomfortable scenes worth it, because you're teaching people, and you're teaching people in a way where their eyes and their ears are going to be open completely to receiving the information, because they're not being forced to receive it. It's I don't know, it's wedged in between entertainment.
Well, it's so interesting you say that, because I know like they don't teach, the Tulsa Massacre in history. They don't teach that in American history. It's like, so when you're watching this, you're like, wait, what? And then you're Googling it to do your research. But talk about being reunited with Regina and what that was like, because you worked together on Leftovers, and here you are again. Damon broke all his rules to like recut.
He did. He did. He totally did, right? What's up with that, Damon?
Talk about the rule that Damon had and how he broke it, not just with Regina, but with you.
It was... I've never really like sat down and asked him why he did it. And I didn't want to, because I felt like if I did, maybe he would change his mind. Like, why are you breaking that rule? Oh yeah, that's right. Like, I do have the rule. We'll get somebody else. You know what I mean? So I was just like, okay, it's mine. And I remember he was like, okay, we're gonna bring you on, details soon, blah, 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 when you're gonna come out. And it was like half an hour later, maybe, because remember, they had already been filming the other episodes by this point, and Regina is doing the brilliant work that she does. So she's busy shooting scenes, and she was in between a scene, I think, and she was in the makeup trailer, and she found out from the makeup department, because there were some people that were working there, Miss Debbie and Mona, who worked with me on Fences. So they reached out to her and they were like, they cast young Will Reeves. And she was like, who? They were like, your son. And she was like, my son? He's like, your TV son. And then called me immediately. And as soon as I picked up, she's just like, we obviously very close. So she was just like giving me a hard time and teasing me and stuff. But I could just tell that she was so excited about the work. And that in turn gave me even more confidence about the journey that was ahead, because she was like, okay, this is cool. We're going to be kicking it. But remember the work that we do. And I was like, yeah. She was like, so when you get here, day one, we're getting to work. And that's what it was. Like, we got there. And what was awesome was that me and her delved into trying to master, again, I'm trying not to spoil it for the viewers who haven't seen it, master the perspective switch that we had to perfect, or try to perfect. And there was a lot of mirroring behavior and mirroring mannerisms. And that was through conversations and just trusting each other as artists and being excited about the task. And so this was, again, something that was brilliant from Stephen and Damon, because they brought together two people who had worked together before, who already built a rapport playing relatives. And we just got to do it again. And there was no hesitation about the material, whatever. It was just like, day one, boom, let's get it. Boom, 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 boom. And it was such a dream getting to work with her again. It really was. And to kind of piggyback on that without sounding like I'm rambling about it, she was the second person that I heard from after I found out I got my nomination. It was Damon first. Regina was literally 5 minutes after him. And she was so excited about it. And I don't know how to explain it. It was just like somebody else being genuinely so happy for you when she had a nomination herself. It was the coolest thing to experience. And again, something else that I will never forget.
Yeah. You're talking about the Emmy nomination, how Regina reached out to you, but you've also been, you've been nominated for a Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by Cast in a Motion Picture, a Black Reel Award for Outstanding Breakthrough Performance. What does that kind of recognition mean to you? Like when you wake up and you've got these nominations and you're being recognized by your peers.
Well, it always feels good to feel validated by your peers. I don't think there's an actor on the planet that just like purely has no care for, I don't know how to say it, mass validation. Because if that was the case, we would all just we would sit in our bedrooms and do monologues in front of the mirror and be totally content with that, which, I mean, it's fun to do, but you want people to see your work and you want to feel appreciated. So I think that that's something that is great to receive and great to experience, but I don't think it's something that you should look for, because that can drive you crazy. And I'm telling you, I mean, I haven't been in the business super long, but I'm guilty of it. Like, just wanting to feel, it's that feeling, just wanting to feel wanted. You know what I mean? And as artists, we put ourselves out there and we do whatever we need to do to fully present a character. And you want to feel that it's being received in the way that you intended it to, or at least close. And it doesn't have to be liked by everyone, but I respect what he or she was attempting to do, or was trying to convey in that emotion or in that action or whatever it is. So to answer your question, it feels good to have a sense of validation and to be able to share that with my contemporaries, to be able to share it with Yaya, and to share it with the Honorable Mr. Lou Gossett Jr., and to be able to share it with the rest of the nominees. But I think the first and the ultimate thing that I take from the nominations is that I need to keep going, and I need to keep, you obviously want to enjoy the moment, but keep looking for the great stories to tell and the great characters to play, because now I feel like it's a confidence thing, I guess is the best way. It's like, because at some point, it's super liberating to say, I don't care about what people think. I'm going to do what I do in these scenes. But at the same time, you don't want to be like facing this way and, beating your own drum, and you're just so far off base and so eclectic and so you and unique that people can't follow the story. Because your whole purpose as an actor and as that character, no matter how eccentric and how edgy you want to be, is to serve the story. So if people are missing it because you want to do this funky mime, whatever, then it's like, you know what I mean? You kind of got to do what you want to do as an actor and express it, but keep it in the realms of the story. Otherwise, why are we doing it? And you're not serving the director, the writer, and the crew who's working hard to tell the story. Stay within the parameters. So
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. What did you learn from the role and from Watchmen and being in the world of
I think the biggest thing that I took away from, it's so hard to like talk about it without ruining the plot of the episode. I would say that everybody has their own battles in life. I think when you look at Will Reeves / Hood of Justice, he is battling all kinds of demons, and maybe not demons, but just insecurities and unsureties about his life and what his super objective is and his purpose. And I think you get a chance to look inside of his story and see how he became the older gentleman that he serves to be at this towards the end of the series. And I think it just shows you that everybody's dealing with their own little puzzle of trying to see what life means to them and how their little piece of the puzzle fits into the grand scheme of things. And so that was something that reading the script and then actually playing the character was something very clear to me, because you're dealing with a character who has more masks than one. And he's trying to, okay, from 9 to 5, I'm gonna put this one on, take it off, put another one on. And at some point it's just like, how many masks do I have and which one am I wearing and which one, like, how do I get back to me? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was something that was, very highlighting to me after playing that role.
Yeah. And you talk about puzzles, but like, are you doing anything creative in quarantine right now, given that we're all stuck at home? Like, how are you keeping up with creativity?
I would like to say that I'm just learning all like all these really cool hobbies and cool like crafts and everything. I'm trying to, but yeah, like I picked up the guitar for this job that I did in Vancouver. We were filming The Stand, so I started taking guitar lessons for my character, and I stuck with it because it was just really fun to kind of, learn an instrument. You play this note, oh, that's what I wanted it to sound like, so it was cool. It's hard to stick with because it's an instrument, or any instrument that you're trying to learn. You get to a wall and you're like, I'm about to throw this guitar out the window. I don't even care anymore. But then, if you stick with it, you have a breakthrough, and then you want to keep going. So guitar is one thing. I've shared time with playing video games with my friends. I'm not immune to the video game craze because I have a lot of friends who are in the military and are in different parts of the world. And that's how we communicate. We don't always get on the Zoom and do this kind of thing, but we like to get on there and play basketball or, Madden and all that kind of thing. And it just keeps you sane. It's you just have to try to be creative with your time from day to day, as I'm sure and so that it doesn't feel like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
So I spend my mornings either early morning or late night going for a run and trying to stay active and stay in shape because of all the Zoom happy hours we participate in. So you got to get out there and run it. Do that and then try to practice the guitar. Maybe I usually flip a coin to see if I'm going to do it or not. Or sometimes it's cool to just lounge around. My mom was like very vocal about that. She's like a nutritionist and homeopathic medicine and everything. And she's like, you got to be kind to yourself. You have to be okay with like having a glass of wine at early evening, and just lounging around and doing nothing. You have to be, because we haven't traveled this journey before. Right. This is weird. So it's like, be easy on yourself. So no, to answer your question again, I'm in a rambling mood today. Kind of learning new things, but kind of not.
Jovan Adepo, it was so much fun talking to you. Thank you on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation for joining us and sharing your experiences, your process, and your craft with your fellow performing artists. That was so much fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was such a pleasure.